Hi guys. So I made this video for people like me who have an existing mental illness that they're coping with. I went looking for a video to help me kind of cope with my mental illness during this time of self-isolation and quarantine. And I found that most of them are very general, not specifically the struggles you have while coping with a mental illness during this time. So I wanted to make a video on what I learned and the information I've kind of compiled from finding my own way to cope and to deal with everything that's going on. And I wanted to share it with you guys and hope that I can help somebody like me. I'm gonna break down a couple different things, and you can check the description for timestamps. I can definitely ramble on. Kind of what I was worried about was how I was going to get to my appointment. I was gonna still have my appointments, if they're gonna be over the phone, how to keep myself motivated to make sure I'm doing the things that I needed to do. I just started to get out and get out of the house. So now that this is going on, I'm kind of a little bit discouraged that I had just made so much progress and now I have to stay in the house all the time. So if you can relate to any of this and you're having a hard time, you're already coping with mental illness and dealing with recovery, this video is for you, and hopefully we can stick together and make this the best that we can. So stay tuned. So the first thing that I found that really helped me, this is something that I practice in my everyday life, but specifically for this, is a brain dump. In your journal, like a brain dump, just all your thoughts. It doesn't have to be pretty, not Dear Diary, just bullet, spit it out. What are you worried about? What do you need? What's going on in your brain? What's something that you were gonna do next week that you don't get to do anymore and now you're about it? What's everything, write it down, write everything down, and just get it out of your brain. I'm sure those thoughts have just been racing and racing and racing, and you deserve a break. Not only do you deserve a break, but once they're on paper, we can start to tackle them one by one. They're tangible. There's something that we can deal with when we're ready to deal with them. When it's all going on in here, it's hard to tackle, it's hard to listen to, and you don't really get a break. So I'm not going to say that it's going to turn it off completely, but it's going to help a lot. It's helped me so much. Quiets your brain down a little bit, makes it a little bit more manageable. You can see what you're working with, and then you can go from there. And then, just pause the video, do the brain dump, a minute, 2 minutes, anything right now would be very helpful. Just give you something to work with and to give your brain a little break. The next tip is going to be to identify your supports and to contact your supports. I recommend to write them down. You've done your brain dump. Okay, next, write down your supports. So your therapist, your psychiatrist, your friend that you like to talk to, if there's people in your family that you classify as supports regarding mental illness, you're comfortable talking about this stuff with. Write all those people down. Write all those supports down, write down their numbers, and then slowly, don't overwhelm yourself, but contact these individuals and figure out if any appointments are going to be interrupted. If so, what do you do? Can you call them? Can your appointments be over the phone? Can your psychiatrist call in your medication? Your psychiatrist call in your prescriptions? What can they do? What can you do to help mediate the situation? Because remember that they're struggling too, because they have restrictions with everything going on. They want to help you, but we have to give ourselves and give our supports, give them understanding. They have a lot going on too, and that they have certain guidelines they have to follow. So if you call up front and you know what you're expecting, that's a little bit easier than the what ifs kind of rolling through your head and not knowing what's going on. I find that's been a lot more helpful for me. My therapist, she does on the phone appointments. Actually, we were already doing on the phone appointments before this went on because I was having a hard time getting to my appointments. So that's been kind of a transition I didn't have to make, luckily, but she's able to upkeep those appointments, and I'm able to call her in between if I need to, so I do find myself really lucky there. My psychiatrist, I'm able to touch base over the phone. Also with your friends that you classify as support, it's a good idea to talk about boundaries. Kind of, is it okay to call? If I call, should I say, hey, do you have space for this right now? Do you have time for me to vent? And remember, with social distancing, respect other people's boundaries and also withhold your boundaries. just because you're having a hard time, I'm really sorry, but you can't break that social distancing. You can't go back on what you're doing, because that's only going to create more anxiety later. I'd also recommend joining mental health groups, mental illness support groups. Specifically, I'm in borderline personality disorder, BPD support groups. I'm in women with mental illnesses and women with mental health struggles support groups. Trying to find a group that's kind of specific to you. There's also community support groups for the pandemic, for COVID-19. Find the support group in your area and connect with people. Because we're social distancing doesn't mean we can't be social. In a world with all the technology that we have, and I know personally with my mental illness, I'm not a very, like, I'm extroverted in some ways, but my daily life hasn't been impacted so much because I'm not a super social person face to face. And I have a lot of anxiety, social anxiety, and anxiety going out and going to places. So that part hasn't changed a whole lot for me, but my life, my resources, stability, that's the part that's rocking. And for a lot of people, the social part is really hard for them. But for me, it was already hard to be social. But now it's even more important to reach out because there's so much going on. And because now that even if you weren't reaching out socially, you were seeing people and you were interacting with people. But now that part's taken away. So you have to make an effort to reach out to people. Even if you're not talking about what's going on or talking about your struggles, just consuming some of that information, reading the posts, and like hearing somebody say that they're going through something similar has been beneficial for me. If you're not ready to ask for advice yet, usually somebody in the group has already asked a question you're asking, and then you can get some help there. And don't believe everything you see online. Don't believe everything that people say in support groups, but just understand that that's there, and it's a really great thing that I think should be accessed now more than ever. I really suggest that you guys reach out and connect with some people so you feel less alone in this craziness. If you're low income or you're having struggle with food security or making sure that you have some of the supplies that you need, research and look up the supports in your area for food and supplies, food banks, soup kitchens. There's usually community resources that also help with food and supplies and clothes and etc. Contact the people in your area. Ask your therapists or your supports if they know of any supports within the community. A lot of these supports are delivering. I wouldn't assume that they're going to deliver, but just understand that there's a possibility that they could deliver. I know in my community, it's been so inspiring that there's people posting in public groups saying, if you need a ride, if you need something dropped off, please message me. Personally, it's really, really hard to reach out for support, to reach out for help, to ask for help. This is the time that we need to band together. And if you need help, please, 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 please ask for it. I know it's one of the hardest things to do, but you deserve it. You deserve the help. That I just want you to know that you deserve the help, and if you need it, ask for it. There is limited resources out there, but if you try to get in contact with them as soon as possible, then they can do their best, and you can do your best to make sure that you're in contact with them and you're supported through this, and so that you know of all the supports that are available to you. This tip is something that was difficult for me, was to try and be prepared but not panicked, and to be in a prepared state instead of a panicked state. That's something I'm consciously and continually working on right now. Being prepared but not panicked for me is going out and getting what I need, but not too much that takes away from other people getting what they need. Because there's many people in the world that are kind of fueled by fear right now, and they're panicking, and they're stocking up more than they need. Other people can't get what they need, and that comes from fear, that comes from panic. So be prepared. Prepare yourself to get what you need. Have your medication. Have your food, your supplies. Go back to your brain dump, and like, the different things that you're worried about and what's really important to you, and make sure you get those things. For me, it was making sure I had my medication. It was making sure I had dog food, extra dog food in case the stores ran out, because my puppy's really important to me. Making sure that my friends knew what my boundaries were regarding everything. Preparing myself mentally and physically. Being prepared is also taking care of yourself, like I said, physically, sleeping well, eating well, preparing your body, because we're already thinking worst case scenario. Many people with a mental illness struggle with heightened anxiety and other comorbid disorders. And I know that I think worst case scenario a lot. And if you're working on your health and you're the healthiest that you can be right now, that's the best that you can do to prepare for the worst. You have everything that you need for the next little bit, then you're prepared for the worst. And when your brain can go to that worst case scenario, as much as we try to bring it back, it still happens. So if you are prepared for the worst, you're not panicking, you're prepared, and that'll help ease some of the anxiety. And because we can't avoid that worst case scenario thinking, the best thing that we can do to kind of ease that, to say, oh, well, if this happens, well, that's okay. I have food. Oh, well, if this happens, it's okay. I have what I need for the next little bit. Well, if this happens, well, I'm the healthiest that I can be in this situation, so I am doing the best that I can. And just having that to combat those worst case scenario thoughts, I found was very helpful for me, because if you're doing the best that you can and you feel like you're educated, you feel like you know and you're prepared, then that takes away some of the anxiety, that takes away some of the panic of just trying to figure out what to do, because you're prepared. The next step is about educating yourself as well as following the guidelines. It's really important to make sure that when you're consuming the information from the media, that it's reliable sources, that you're kind of limiting what you're consuming. It can be really overwhelming, and sometimes without realizing it, we're seeking kind of a false sense of security and control by constantly consuming the media. And then either we feel kind of a little bit secure, or we feel a little bit overwhelmed, and then we take a break, and then we kind of feel out of control again, and we go at it again, or we want a distraction. And educating yourself is very important, but make sure you're mindful of how much you're consuming and what you're consuming. Follow the guidelines for wherever you are. They're there for a reason. If we follow all these guidelines and nothing happens, that's exactly what those guidelines were for. So we need to remember that. Taking extra precautions, if other people are looking down on you for self-isolating, if other people are looking down on you for taking these precautions and for being who you are and dealing with things how you need to deal with it, then don't worry about them. Just push them to the side and don't worry about them, because you just need to focus on yourself and take care of yourself the best that you can, and that's what you're doing. And if you need to put boundaries in place, and by following what you think is right, other people are negatively impacted, then that's something that they need to deal with. And there's nothing wrong with you sticking up for yourself. And don't worry about them, because you just need to focus on yourself and take care of yourself the best that you can, and that's what you're doing. And if you need to put boundaries in place, and by following what you think is right, other people are impacted, then that's something that they need to deal with. And there's nothing wrong with you sticking up for yourself and for doing what you think's right for you, your health, your mental health, and your body. I just want to say that right now. So if you're self-isolating and other people have something to say about it, don't worry about them. Just focus on yourself. So not only you're doing your part for other people, but you're doing your part to keep yourself safe, and it can help ease your mind a little bit by knowing what's going on in the world, and what the people around you are doing to take care of you, and the resources that are available to you, and the steps and precautions that you need to take. And one of my biggest and most important tips is to try and keep living. I know it seemed like the whole world stopped. With so much unknown going on in the world, we need to keep living, and we need to just to plan for life to go back to normal, because more than likely it will, and more than likely it's gonna be different, But the all you can do is focus on yourself and focus on what's important to you. You need to keep living, because when all this is over, you're still you. You still have to deal with what's inside your head, what's going on in your life. I know it may seem like it's an easy time to just kind of hide away from the world, and it is in some ways, you know? In some ways, it's a break from some things, and it's okay to look at it that way. But just remember that one day this break is going to be over, and use this time to focus on yourself, to get stronger, to learn how to motivate yourself. And it's not going to be easy at all. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's going to be worth it to use this time as wisely as possible and to take care of yourself. Because if not, on the other end of this, it's going to be very hard to transition back into everyday life. If you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not living, then when all this is over, life's going to be a really big smack in the face.
And for me, it already is, but
it's gonna be more so. So just try to have something to look forward to in every day, and make sure you're getting outside. Just because you have to social distance and self-isolate does not mean that you can't get outside. It's so important to get outside. And with the change of seasons, I know my seasonal depression, I can feel it lifting, and it's amazing. Even if you can't get outside, get out on the deck, open the window, put the sun on your face. Then the sun naturally wakes you up. It makes you feel better. Like, we can use all the extra help that we can get. So get out and get some sun. I know having my puppy helps me because I have to go outside. I have to take him for a walk. And I'm not saying that it's a chore. Sometimes, you know, in the cold, I don't want to. But he motivates me to get outside. And I've noticed that it's helped me tremendously to get outside and to do the things that might be scary to do. Another thing that I would recommend during this self-isolation quarantine period would be to take up a hobby. Something you've always wanted to do that you've never really had time for. Whether it's making YouTube videos like me, if it's painting, if it's working on an instrument that you play, if it's writing, if it's reading. I know personally I have a few books that I'm planning on finishing during this isolation period. I'm hoping to make a video on that, so if it's not here, I will insert it when it's filmed, talking about the books that I'm going to be reading during this time. I find that it's rewarding, so it's kind of like, it's almost like it's something we didn't have time for, and you'd feel guilty for like making time for it because I should be cleaning, I should be something else. Well, at this point, like, we have time to throw away. Some of us do, not all of us do. I know there's a lot of us working from home. I'm working from home as well. But as a little treat, you know, treat yourself into taking up a hobby, something to look forward to, something to fill that extra time, something that you're a product of what you're doing. So yeah, that's something I'd recommend. And personally, what I'm doing is YouTube videos and also reading. So that's what I'm going to be working on and kind of taking up hobby-wise to fill my time during the self-isolation period. So yeah, and I think actually like one of my most important tips for me anyway is to give back any way that you can. To give back or to help out any way that you can. For me personally, I made an appointment to donate blood because I know that there's a big need for blood right now, and a lot of people are canceling their appointments just because they're scared with everything going on, which is understandable. It helps two things, because one, I'm giving back, and it gives me a sense of like purpose, because in all this I've lost my sense of purpose. I don't know about you guys, but that's something I've been struggling with, is my sense of purpose. And why are other people dying when I'm still here? Like, I know that might be dramatic for some people, but that's something I think about. That's something that keeps me up at night sometimes, is why are other people suffering? It's something I've always thought about and always struggled with, but now I'm noticing that it's it's coming to the forefront more than ever. And just to give me that sense of purpose of, you know, I'm helping people, I'm trying to help somebody, you know, I'm here for a reason. Now maybe my life can help more lives, help save some lives. And also, they screen your blood, they make sure that you're healthy. It's a very healthy and clean environment. So for me, it's just kind of a sense of security in the back of my head, knowing that that they're going to screen my blood and they'll contact me for some reason if I was sick. And like, knock on wood, I don't think that I'm sick, but it's just kind of an extra sense of security. I'm going to keep going to those appointments, and then I get to help somebody, and I also get that confirmation that I'm healthy, which is great for me because going to the doctor causes me a lot of anxiety, especially with everything that's going on. Also, giving back by peer support. You don't have to be trained for peer support. There's different levels of peer support. You can help somebody just peer to peer, person to person. Reach out to one of your friends and say, hey, how are you doing in all this? Like, it's crazy, huh? Like, what have you been up to? Have you seen this new movie? Have you tried this new game? You don't have to have a mental health conversation. If they want to and you're ready to, that's great and that's awesome of you. But reaching out to somebody, do you know, like, think about how great that feels when somebody just thinks of you and reaches out to you. Doesn't that feel great? So try to make somebody else feel that way. I know personally that I'm not in like a financial situation to help financially, but if you're able to donate financially to certain organizations in the community, if you're able to donate food to the food bank, if they're accepting donations, some places are kind of really rigid on their guidelines right now, which is understandable just with everything going on. So just look into the guidelines on how to donate things. Like I said, donating blood, donating food, or financially to supports in your area, as well as reaching out to people and peer support and whatever you can do to give back to. It's scientifically proven that not only does it help your mental health, but it helps other people. So I think that's great, and that's what the world needs now more than ever. With all this craziness and uncertainty, we just need to push more love and more community and more support. We just need to push back and stand together and do what we can. Kind of help with that sense of purpose, because when we lose that sense of purpose, that motivation, it's really, really hard to kind of give our all and to do our best to take care of ourselves. I just think it's really important. It's really important to me, and it's helped me a lot. Yeah, if there's any other things that you can think of to do to give back right now, that would be really helpful to me, because I've been trying to think of things, and I realize that there's a lot of restrictions socially, and it's just what we can do with everything going on. So if you guys have any ideas of how we can give back, please leave in the comments below, and I'll try my best to get back to everyone. That'd be really helpful to me, and I'd really appreciate it. Okay, guys, so thanks for watching this video, and I hope that it's helped you. If you have any questions or anything to add that's helped you coping with your mental illness during this self-isolation and quarantine period, please leave it in the comments. You never know who you're going to help, and you could help me as well, because I'm still learning. So let me know what's helped you. If you have a video that you'd like to see, please leave in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see any upcoming videos, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in the next video. Yeah, take care of yourself, get some sunshine, drink water, and have a good day.